Greetings. Greetings and welcome to another day of Storytime. I hope all is doing well today. Happy Easter, blessed Passover, happy Resurrection Sunday to those that celebrate these holidays, and in general, happy Sunday. It's a blessed day and I'm happy to be here with you today to share stories again. So I hope all is doing well. I hope everyone's safe. If you're with family, that you're enjoying yourself and that you're blessed to partake of a meal today and give thanks. So I'm here today. We've been rocking with you every day, sharing stories, and I have two stories to share today. The first one is a folk tale called Rabbit Makes a Monkey Out of Lion, and the author is Verna Aardema, and the pictures are by Jerry Pinkney. I've read a few other stories to you with Jerry Pinkney illustrated, and he's a noted illustrator for his beautiful watercolor illustrations. So I hope you enjoy this story. Rabbit Makes a Monkey of Lion. This is actually dedicated to my son in 93 as a Kwanzaa gift. I don't know why I have all their Kwanzaa books. Rabbit Makes a Monkey of Lion. There was a time when There was a time when of all creatures in the world, monkey was considered most foolish. So whenever an animal was tricked by someone, he would cry, "That rascal made a monkey of me." In this tale about making a monkey of lion, the honey guide starts it all. One morning, Rabbit was wakened by a honey guide singing outside her door. "Chee chee, come and see a bee's nest in a calabash tree." Rabbit followed the little bird as she flitted ahead and led her to a calabash tree. There, high up in the trunk of the tree, was a bee's nest. Rabbit thanked the bird. Then she went to Bush Rat and said, "I know where there's a bee tree. Come and help me get honey." Bush Rat smacked his lips. He said, "Legs rest, but the mouth does not. Take me to that honey." The two gathered some dry banana leaves and climbed the calabash tree. They lit one of the leaves and smoked out the bees. Then they began eating the honey. Phew, phew, phew. Suddenly, there was a lion below them. He growled, "Who's up there eating my honey?" "It's only us," squeaked Bush Rat. "Ah," cried Lion, "I know your voice, Bush Rat." Rabbit whispered, "Hush, Bush Rat. Wrap me in those leftover leaves and drop me down. We will fool that lion." So the Bush Rat wrapped the rabbit in the long banana leaves and dropped her. The bundle fell. Katoom! Lion said, what's that?" Then he saw the rabbit wriggle out and go running, riddy, 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 into the forest. Lion tore after her, but the rabbit managed to keep a jump ahead of him and finally dove into some branches. Lion scrambled, zack, back, drat, around the thorny thicket, but he could not find an opening. "That little rascal made a monkey of me," he cried. Notice how detailed all the illustrations are. When Lion went back to catch the bush rat, he was gone too. He looked for him and found him digging yams in his garden. Bush Rat saw Lion coming. He called, "Oh, Lion, I'm getting these yams to pay you for the honey." Said Lion. "Yams won't do. I'm going to eat you. Oh, please eat this yam first, begged Bushrat. Here, catch it. He tossed the yam high. Lion threw his head back and opened his mouth wide. Bushrat went rush through a hole under the roots of a nearby tree. The lion caught the yam, but when he looked for the bushrat, all he saw was his tail disappearing into the burrow. Lion tried frantically to dig him out. The sand flew, brr, 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 but the burrow was too deep. That little rascal made a monkey of me, he cried. The next morning, Rabbit was awakened again by the honey guide singing, "Chee, chee, come and see, a bee's nest in a calabash tree." Rabbit knew that she should not go back to that bee tree. Still, she remembered how sweet the honey was, and at last she followed the bird to the calabash tree. She went to Turtle and said, "I know it is a bee tree. Come and help me get honey." Cried the turtle as she rubbed her belly. "When you say honey, I can hear you with one ear. Take me to that bee tree." The two gathered some leaves and climbed the calabash tree. They smoked out the bees and ate honey until they felt sick. Then they picked the big calabash and dug out the seeds, intending to fill it with honeycomb dripping with honey. Suddenly, hum! There was the lion below them. He growled, "Who's up there stealing my honey?" "It's only us," said Turtle. "Hush," whispered Rabbit as she climbed into the calabash. "Put the top on and drop me down. We will fool that lion." So Turtle put the stem end back on the gourd and called, "Stand back, lion. Here comes the calabash." Now that calabash had not had time to dry and harden, so when it whirled to the ground, it smashed into bits. Knick-kish! And there was the slightly stunned rabbit lying in the middle. Lion pounced upon her. "Twum! At last I have you," he roared, "and I'm going to eat you." Rabbit woke up in a hurry. She cried, "But I'm too tough to eat. You have to make me tender first." "How?" snarled the lion. Rabbit said, "Take me by the tail and twirl me round and round." But the tail of a rabbit is little more than a ball of fuzz. And when Lion grasped Rabbit's tail and twirled her, she went flying, woo, into the forest. All Lion had left in his claws were a few brown hairs. He said, "That little rabbit made a monkey of me again." This time the lion did not chase the rabbit. He waited for the other thief to come down from the tree. When Turtle reached the ground, she drew her head and tail and feet into her shell. Lion tapped the top shell, tack, tack, tack. He turned the turtle over and tapped the bottom shell, tuk, tuk, tuk. "How can I make a meal of this?" he grumbled. "It's easy," cried Turtle from inside her shell. "First, you must take me to a water hole." So Lion carried the turtle to a small pond. "Now," said Turtle, "put me in the muddy water and pile mud on top of me. When I'm covered well, scrub me hard and my shell will come off." Lion put the turtle into the murky water at the edge of the pond, and he scooped mud on top of her. Katoom, katoom, katoom. "Is that enough?" he asked. "Can you see me?" asked Turtle. Lion looked on this side. He looked on that side. "A little bit," he said. "It's not enough," said Turtle. Then as the lion piled on more mud, the turtle slipped away under the water. Lion did not realize what was happening until he saw the laughing face of the turtle pop up in the middle of the pond. He hurled a lump of mud at her. "Z, that little rascal made a monkey of me," he cried. As he walked away, Lion began thinking about his troubles. First it was Rabbit and Bushrat making a fool of him. Then it was Rabbit and Turtle. Aha! Rabbit was behind it all. Lion's mane bristled. He set out for Rabbit's house, saying, "I'll gobble her up." But when he arrived, she was not at home. He went inside and waited for her to come. At dusk, Rabbit returned. As she approached her house, she saw lion tracks near the door. She went back a little way. If the lion was in the house, she would have to get him out. Rabbit knew just what to do. "Howdy do, little house," she called. No answer. Rabbit called again. "Little house, you always tell me, howdy do. Is something wrong today?" No answer. Rabbit tried again. "Little house, answer me." This confused the lion. Finally trying to talk like a house, he answered, "Howdy do." Rabbit laughed. "Keek, keek, keek, you foolish lion," she cried. "Don't you know that a house can't talk?" Then, "Har!" Lion burst out of the house and went roaring after the rabbit. Rabbit ran for her life, zigzagging between the trees, and just in time, finding safety in a thicket. Lion turned away, saying, "That little rascal made a monkey of me again." As he set out for home, he shook his shaggy head and said, "Rabbits are just too hard to catch." The next morning, Rabbit was awakened once more by the honey guide singing, "Chee, chee, come and see a bee's nest in a calabash tree." Rabbit stood in her doorway. She said, "No, honey guide, that's lion's tree. Don't you know when you eat from the lion's bowl, you need a spoon with a long handle?" And that's the end of Rabbit Makes a Monkey of Lion. So good afternoon. Hi, Mona. I'm sorry. And hi, Aunt Carol. And hi, Mildred. I'm glad you're with me for stories today. So again, happy Easter to those who celebrate. Happy Resurrection Sunday, blessed Passover, and happy Sunday. So the next book that I'm going to read to you, I want to give you a little background. It's about the Great Migration, and I'm not going to read this story, but I want to show you. This is a children's book by Eloise Greenfield, The Great Migration: Journey to the North. It's a series of poems, but I want to read you just the opening that gives you the background on the Great Migration. Between 1915 and 1930, more than 1 million African Americans left their homes in the South, the southern part of the United States, and moved to the North. This movement was named the Great Migration. In the South, members of the Ku Klux Klan were attacking African Americans, making it unsafe for them to live there. There were white-only signs on water fountains, in lunchrooms, and other places, meaning that only white people could use them. Many African Americans could not find jobs in the areas where they lived. For all of these reasons, African Americans in large numbers began to move away. When they reached the North, they found that it was far from perfect. They had not escaped racial discrimination. Even so, things were better, and most people stayed in their new cities and worked hard to earn a living and take care of their children. In August of 1929, when I was 3 months old, my father took the train northward from our home in Carmel, North Carolina, to Washington, D.C. My parents had heard from relatives and friends who had already moved to Washington how much better life was for them. Although Washington was not quite in the North, many North Carolinians and other Southerners settled there. My father found a job and a place for us to live. A month later, after he had saved enough money for train fare, he sent it to us so that my mother, my brother, and I could join him. I was too little to know it then, but I had become part of the Great Migration. Those are the words of Eloise Greenfield, the author of this book. My family also was part of the Great Migration. In November of 1925, my grandfather and grandmother left Virginia with my father, who was 14 months old, and my aunt Madeline, who was 3, and they came to New Jersey. And so my family was part of the Great Migration, and that's part of our legacy as African Americans in this country. And so this next book I read in tribute to the journey that our ancestors made to try and give us a better life in this country, The Great Migration, and An American Story. Before I read it, I want to share. This is illustrated and written by Jacob Lawrence. And Jacob Lawrence is a very, very famous painter. And his series, The Great Migration, is one of his greatest works. And this book is his book of the migration series. And it's 60 some odd panels that show the entire journey of African Americans. And here's another book I have of Jacob Lawrence. I love his work. Over the Line, The Art and Life of Jacob Lawrence. And then finally, he also wrote Aesop's Fables, Jacob Lawrence, and he did an illustration of that. So I wanted you to know because he is a very famous painter. So this is The Great Migration, An American Story, paintings by Jacob Lawrence. Around the time I was born, many African Americans from the South left home and traveled to cities in the North in search of a better life. My family was part of this great migration. Excuse me. Northern industries offered Southern blacks jobs as workers and lent them money to be repaid later for their railroad tickets. The northbound trains were packed with recruits. Nature had ravaged the South, floods ruined farms, the boll weevil destroyed cotton crops. The war had doubled the cost of food, making life even harder for the poor. Railroad stations were so crowded with migrants that guards were called in to keep order. The flood of migrants northward left crops back home to dry and spoil. For African Americans, the South was barren in many ways. There was no justice for them in the courts, and their lives were often in danger. Although slavery had long been abolished, white landowners treated the black tenant farmers harshly and unfairly. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. And so the migration grew. Segregation divided the South. The black newspapers told of better housing and jobs in the North. Families would arrive very early at railroad stations to make sure they could get on the northbound trains. Early arrival was not easy because African Americans found on the streets could be arrested for no reason. And the migrants kept coming. In the South, there was little opportunity for education, and children labored in the fields. There were more reasons for people to move north, leaving some communities deserted. There was much excitement and discussion about the Great Migration. Agents from northern factories flocked into southern counties and towns looking for laborers. Families often gathered to discuss whether to go north or to stay south. The promise of better housing in the north could not be ignored. Excuse me. The railroad stations were crowded with migrants. Letters from relatives in the north and articles in the black press portrayed a better life outside the South. Many migrants arrived in Chicago. In Chicago and other cities, they labored in the steel mills and on the railroads. And the migrants kept coming. Southern landowners, stripped of cheap labor, tried to stop the migration by jailing the labor agents and the migrants. Sometimes the agents disguised themselves to avoid arrest, but the migrants were often taken from railroad stations and jailed until the trains departed. Black and white Southern leaders met to discuss ways to improve conditions to stop the flow of workers north. Although life in the North was better, it was not ideal. Many migrants moved to Pittsburgh, which was a great industrial center at the time. Although they were promised better housing in the North, some families were forced to live in overcrowded and unhealthy quarters. The migrants soon learned that segregation was not confined to the South. Many Northern workers were angry because they had to compete with the migrants for housing and jobs. There were riots. Longtime African American residents living in the North did not welcome the newcomers from the South and often treated them with disdain. The migrants had to rely on each other. The storefront church was a welcoming place and the center of their lives, in joy and in sorrow. Black professionals such as doctors and lawyers soon followed their patients and clients north. Female workers were among the last to leave. Life in the North brought many challenges, but the migrants' lives had changed for the better. Their children were able to go to school, and their parents gained the freedom to vote. and the migrants kept coming. Theirs is a story of African American strength and courage. I share it now as my parents told it to me, because their struggles and triumphs ring true today. People all over the world are still on the move, trying to build better lives for themselves and for their families. And that is the story of the Great Migration, by Jacob Lawrence. And I just want to say, I'm grateful my family came to the North in 1925 when they did. My grandparents had more children, including my Aunt Carol, who's logged on here today for my story time. And it did give us more opportunity. My elders graduated from high school. Myself and many of my first generation cousins were blessed to graduate from college and get advanced degrees. And many of the next generation have gotten degrees and advanced degrees. So there were many opportunities afforded to us. But at the same time, things changed in the South so that many, many, many people were able to get a quality education in the South. In fact, most of the historically Black colleges and universities, known as HBCUs, are in the South. But with that said, those were two great stories. I love the story, The Great Migration. And that is a series. Those illustrations are 60 paintings from his book, The Migration Series. It was 60 paintings that he did detailing the story of the journey of African Americans from the South to the North. So I hope you enjoyed those stories today. I hope you all have a blessed day. Hi, Lisa, Cousin Lisa. Hi, Aunt Carol. Hi, Mildred. And hi, Mona. I guess Mona didn't stay, but thank you. And to anyone else that's logged on, I don't see who's logged on. I don't see who likes. I only see the comments while I'm on live. But I appreciate you, watching, listening to my stories. I hope and pray that children are watching the stories and hearing the stories, because that's what it's all about. It's always, 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 in my opinion, about supporting the children, because the children truly are our future. Without them, there's nothing. What more is there? That's us. That's the continuation. And so my whole life has been about supporting the children. I love you all. Enjoy your day. Have a blessed day. Enjoy your meal. Enjoy your family. And I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place, 5 o'clock. Be well. Peace.